This is Dr. S, Dr. Flores with the Dr. S Show, and I would like you all to invite you to follow along with our program in this series with the family. And we would like to see if this show might be of somewhat of importance to the family unit at this point in time in this country. We are experiencing a really big deficit as far as the family is involved. We think of our family units and we think of when this country was first begun. The Pilgrims came to this United States. They came fathers, mothers, children, and they built the 13 colonies, and they started the family units. They would go to church. The communities were built. As time went on, the Industrial Revolution, so many things happened after that. Early in the 1900s, there was a lot of boom with the Industrial Revolution. The 20s and so on, the 30s was a breakdown, but the Great Depression and the 40s, it's like the New Deals and things came back to being as to what could help this country be strong again, their monetary system. And then we came into the 50s, which we had World War II and all, Korean War. And a lot of the soldiers came back as heroes. And it was considered a war that was a war where we came back as heroes. And then all of a sudden, there was a decline in the family unit as to what I think happened with the next war, which was in the 60s, the Vietnam War. There was just so much that happened during that era, and we didn't come back as heroes. The soldiers didn't come back as patriots. Something happened where it started to break down the family unit. The 60s became known, for the rebelliousness in the family. No longer were some of the family units strong. There, sex, drugs, rock and roll. The family unit started to have a decay in our society. And I believe that that's when we started to see the breakdown of the families. And then what happened in the 70s? Well, what happened in the 70s as far as the families were concerned? Well, a lot of them began to do a lot of introspection into the me generation. It's like, I need to find out about myself. I need to go out and find out who I am, what I am, and this society. Again, after the 60s, right? And then in the 70s, right, we got into this introspection. And then the 80s came around and the people said, oh no, we need to go back to having our two-door garage, brick homes in suburban America with our two vehicles. And there came a moment in the country's history that slowly the generations that were to come, starting from what I believe was the early 60s and the late 50s, that we came back as heroes and our families were strong. And something happened in the 60s that even to now, we're still reaping the effects, a lot of what happened. I would like to reiterate in this program the decades and some of the things that happened and where we are today as a country with a family unit, and where we've been, where we are, and where we need to be. Some of the things that happened in the 70s, like I was saying earlier, people became very introspective and trying to understand, like, oh my goodness, what just happened in the 60s? What were some of the things that led to the breakdown of the families, where a lot of the children, went to school, left their homes, went far away from home, and got involved into so many things that usually had not been there before, especially the drug culture that came into being, the division of the families. The 80s, all of a sudden, there was a reawakening as far as, well, let's go back and let's have the two income. Let's go back and let's do what we can do to make the family strong again. The two people in the families, the father and the mother, they need to go back into the work situation. They need to go back into the economy and make that, two-door garage and, brick homes in suburban America. And so I believe that even further took the division of the families. And I don't really like using that word division, but I believe that became very prevalent in as far as being able to describe as to what has happened. There's been a division in the very basic core and the value of our families, and where we have catapulted from, right, that we were talking about. And so we're now in the 90s, and we're now trying to decide where we are. This 21st century, where are our children? Where are our families? How is the family unit still seen? Do we still have the father and the mother and the children in the family unit? After the breakdown of a lot of the homes that were broken down, and how a lot of the fathers, a big percentage of the fathers, were no longer home in the family unit. There was a lot of breakdown in the family unit. And those are some of the things that I would like to talk about in this show, is on the families, the family unit. Who are we today in the 21st century here in the United States? Where is the family unit? What are the family values? What is it that we need to do as a nation to be able to bring back what is important and what needs to be important? And we just thank you all for following us in the Dr. S Show. And these are some of the topics that we're going to be talking about. How we can recapture the family in today's society that just has a lot of challenges. And I just want to come into your home, and I just want to be able to share and nurture some parts of the family unit. Thank you for being with us tonight in the Dr. S Show. And this is Dr. Flores signing off. Hope you have a good evening, and thank you so much for being part of our show.